Some tales are more credible than others. Kozlowski has taken care to include both urban legends and more solid cases, allowing you, the listener, to make up your mind for yourself. What do you believe? This is the perfect book to settle down with at the end of the day as the world outside your window fades into darkness. Embark on a journey across haunted America, investigating its spooky highways and eerie byways, from sea to shining sea. Richard Estep. Introduction. As far back as 60,000 BCE, archaeologists have discovered evidence of funeral rites performed by early humans. Sites have been found that show some of our earliest ancestors adorn their dead with flowers, antlers, and other items. While these actions may have served only as a measure of respect for the deceased or as catharsis for the living, it is certainly similar to later practices in which the items were explicitly placed for the dead person's spirit to use in the next life. We can often determine the action of ancient humans by the archaeological evidence, and we've become really good at figuring out when those things happened, but it's a much more difficult thing to be certain of the why. The exact time when the concept of a spirit or soul emerged as something that survives the physical deaths of our bodies is difficult to pinpoint. However, our species' need for answers and our uncanny ability to make them up or develop theories when they aren't readily apparent likely started pretty early in the development of our big brains. We can comfortably say that the belief in an afterlife and subsequent manifestation of spirits of the dead in our mythologies and religions dates back to animism and ancestor worship in pre-literate cultures. We know from oral tradition and early recorded history that many cultures developed some sort of belief in a supernatural force or beings beyond the physical world. The idea that a person's essence is somehow tied to that supernatural power and can continue in another state, often in another realm, almost always walks in lockstep with such beliefs. Some cultures, the Egyptians, Assyrians, and Babylonians, for instance, believed that a being was made up of multiple elements, both physical and spiritual. From here on out, I'm going to use the word spirit to describe this essence of a being that is separate from the body, just to simplify things. Some of the earliest writings about the afterlife are found in Egyptian hieroglyphs. We know that they believed a dead person went to another realm, and that in that realm they could make use of various items, animals, and even other people who were buried with them. It would seem, based on the mummification rituals, that they believed the body and soul were linked. Certain funeral rites became necessary to ensure a smooth journey and continued existence in the afterlife. There is little to suggest that someone who had died could reach back and communicate with the living, or exert any influence on this world. Around 900 BCE, Greek mythology was really coming into its own. Between 800 and 700 BCE, Homer wrote the Iliad and the Odyssey, some of the most important books giving insight into Greek religious beliefs. It is clear that interactions between the living and the dead had become an accepted theme, but most myths concerning such things are pretty explicit in the idea of the being moving between worlds, but, while perhaps having a different sort of physicality about them, not necessarily being two separate entities of body and soul. The Greek philosopher Plato, 424 to 348 BCE, was one of the first to state the belief that the spirit, or soul, was independent of the body, and did not, therefore, depend on a body for its existence. The idea of an essence separate from the body suddenly gives the spirit a lot more freedom. By this time, we can recognize a belief in what we would call ghosts or apparitions because Plato addressed it directly. He believed that an apparition was a soul.